Lesson 4.5 deals with subtracting fractions. It's going to be very similar to adding fractions, except that we are subtracting. And so we will need, when we subtract, a common denominator. So we're subtracting like things, and we call those like fractions when the denominator is the same. So these first four examples, A through D, all deal with common denominators, so they should be simple to subtract. So for part A, we have 17/18 minus 5/18. So if there's 17 of those things and we subtract 5, we're left with 12/18. And as we know, we should always put our answer in lowest terms. We see that here, both 12 and 18 are divisible by 6. So we divide those by 6, and we get 2/3. Moving on to part B. This has more than one subtraction, so order of operations, which I know it's just one operation of subtraction, tells us we go from left to right. So we're first going to subtract 13/10 minus 7/10. I do see that this one's an improper fraction, but it's okay to subtract improper fractions. So we have 13/10 minus 7/10. Well, 13 minus 7 is 6. We have 6/10, and then we still have to subtract 4/10. They're like denominators, so I'm going to subtract them. 6/10 minus 4/10 is 2/10. And make sure we check to see if it's in lowest terms. It is not, so we're going to divide the top and the bottom by what we call the least common factor, greatest common factor, which is 2. And that gives us our answer of 1/5. Part C, 15/16 minus 7/16. Well, 15 minus 7 is 8. So we have 8/16, and that's one we should recognize right away as a half. And then this last one, 17/18. Well, actually, that's the same as part A, so we're not going to do that one a second time. It will still be the same answer. Now, for subtracting unlike fractions, we will have to rename the fractions as equivalent fractions. We want to find the least common multiple. So when we're talking about denominators, we actually call that the least common denominator. So we want to rename as necessary, and then subtract the fractions and put it in lowest terms. Here's a few examples of those. So 11/12 minus 1/4. Well, that's taking twelfths and subtracting fourths, and that can't be done. So we want to find the least common multiple of 12 and 4. So I'll count by 4. 4, 8, 12. Well, so both 12 and 4 go into 12. So that's our least common multiple. So how do we get 4 to be 12? We multiply by 3, which means we need to multiply the numerator by 3. So now we have 11/12 minus 3/12, and we have 11 minus 3 is 8. 8/12. Is it in lowest terms? No, it is not. We can divide both of those by the common factor of 4. And we get 2/3. Is that in lowest terms? Yes, it is. So we're finished there. Next one, we have 19/25 minus 3/5. Well, this is more of the same. We need a common denominator. So out of 5 and 25, what do both of those go into? And it's 25. So how do we get 5 to be 25? We multiply by 5. And what we do to the bottom of a fraction, we need to do to the top of the fraction. And so this turns out to be 19/25 minus 15/25. And 19 minus 15 is 4/25, not 24ths. 4/25. And this does not have any common factors, so that's in its simplified form. Part C, 5/6 minus 1/3. In this case, we can get the 3 here to be a 6 by multiplying by 2. And so we need to multiply the top by 2. So this is going to be 5/6 minus 2/6 gives us 3/6, which reduces or simplifies to 1/2. Now D and E, for 6 and 5, our common denominator, we have to think through, if you think through your multiplication facts, 30 is the smallest number that both of those go into. So we will multiply the 6 by 5 to get 30. Multiply the top by 5. And then on the second fraction, to get this 5 to be a 30, we have to multiply by 6. And that gives us 25/30 minus 12/30. Well, we have 25/30 minus 12/30 is 13/30. They don't have any common factors, so that is our answer. And part E, 9 and 6, we want to find our least common multiple for 9 and 6. So if we count by 9s, we get 9, then 18, and we can actually stop there because 6 times 3 is 18. So our common denominator is going to be 18. Well, to get 9 to be 18, we have to multiply by 2. And to get 6 to be 18, we have to multiply by 3. So this is 14/18 minus 3/18 gives us 11/18. That is in lowest terms, so we're finished there. We can estimate differences, and the way that we're going to estimate is we're going to just round numbers to 0, 1/2, or 1. And so 7/8, that is pretty close to 1. So we're thinking 1, and we don't have to write this down, but we're thinking 1. 5/12 is close to 1/2, so we're just thinking 1 minus 1/2. So our estimate, 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. That's our estimate. And again, this part, this was in our brain. Next one, well, this is close to 1/2 minus close to 1/2. So this is going to be pretty close to 0. That's our estimate. We're pretty close to 0. Is it 0? No, it's not 0, but it's close to 0. And then part C, 20/19. That's really close to 1. It's a little bit over 1. Minus 1/7. Well, 1/7 is close to 0. So 1 minus 0 is about 0. So we're estimating that's about 1. And that is subtracting